Imagine working in some of Hollywood's biggest productions and then risking everything on your own studio only to watch it crumble. In the late 1970s, Coppola was at the top of his game.
The winner is Francis Ford Coppola.
But behind the scenes, he was battling the studio system, desperate for creative freedom. He poured his heart, soul, and money into American Zoetrope, a dream factory where artists could work without compromise. But financial disasters, production nightmares, and the pressure to deliver hit after hit turned Coppola's greatest gamble into his biggest nightmare. In the late 1970s, Francis Ford Coppola directed The Godfather, The Conversation, and Apocalypse Now, three films that didn't just define a decade, but redefined what American cinema could be. He was a central figure in the new Hollywood movement, a generation of auteurs who broke away from the studio assembly line and brought personal vision, political urgency, and artistic risk into the heart of the mainstream. But unlike his contemporaries, Steven Spielberg, who reshaped the blockbuster, or George Lucas, who built an empire out of Star Wars, Coppola wasn't interested in building franchises. His ambitions were grander, messier, and, if you ask me, more idealistic. He wanted to change the system itself, and so he imagined a creative refuge, a cinematic utopia where writers, directors, editors, and composers could collaborate freely, without the interference of suits, test screenings, or box office pressure. A studio where the artist came first. Coppola once said, quote, "I believe that filmmaking, as probably is everything, is a game you should play with all your cards and all your dice and whatever else you've got. So each time I make a movie, I give it everything I have. I think everyone should, and I think everyone should do everything they do that way." And he continued, quote, "To make great movies, there is an element of risk. You have to say, well, I'm going to make this film, and it is not really a sure thing." That radical spirit took shape as American Zoetrope, a studio he founded with George Lucas in 1969 inside a San Francisco loft, far from Hollywood, both geographically and ideologically. Coppola was inspired by the French New Wave, by the European auteurs who worked independently and passionately with fewer resources and more freedom. He even traveled to Europe, bought second-hand film equipment, and shipped it back to the US to build Zoetrope's technical foundation himself. From the beginning, the studio attracted young, ambitious filmmakers, people hungry for a different way of working, as the studio emphasized artistic autonomy, collective vision, and bold experimentation. In an industry then obsessed with commercial hits, Zoetrope was an outpost for creative rebellion, and for a moment, it worked. However, Zoetrope wasn't just a studio. Coppola dreamed of a place where the director wasn't just a technician, but a poet, a philosopher, and a risk-taker. Quote, "My dream is to make personal films," he once said. And he continued, quote, "I could make a film with a 10-year-old girl, and it could be as important as The Godfather." And while some might see this being about ego, it was about belief. Coppola believed that small personal stories could be just as meaningful as epic ones, if the filmmaker was free to tell them truthfully. Early Zoetrope's projects reflected that spirit, with George Lucas's THX 1138, a stark and experimental debut that no studio wanted. The Rain People, Coppola's own intimate road movie, followed, and then Apocalypse Now, a film so ambitious and chaotic it nearly broke him. However, a movie that only existed because Zoetrope gave him the freedom to pursue it in the first place. And inside the studio there were no executives hovering over final cuts, no studio notes, no market-tested endings. It was a place where artists could fail spectacularly, and that Coppola believed was the only way great cinema could be made. And for a moment, it looked like it might actually pull itself off. The success of The Godfather Part 2 and Apocalypse Now gave him real power, and of course, a rare but precious creative control. And instead of cashing in, he doubled down on the dream. He used his profits to expand Zoetrope. New equipment, new facilities, cutting-edge sound stages.
And it was marvelous. You went in there and here was all this equipment. I mean, you couldn't believe how much equipment was there. There was the greatest sound studio, better than any in Hollywood, you know. There were the newest editing machines.
He wanted to reshape not just how films were made, but how they were imagined from the inside out. But then came One from the Heart, the film that would turn that chaos into the ultimate collapse. One from the Heart was meant to be Coppola's boldest artistic statement, a departure from realism into a stylized romantic musical soaked in neon light, built entirely on sound stages that mimicked Las Vegas, but felt like a dream. It was his attempt to blend cinema with opera, to push storytelling into something more theatrical, more expressive, less concerned with plot and more with emotion and mood. But it came at a cost, a staggering cost. The production went completely out of control. From its original $2 million budget, it spiraled to over $27 million. Zoetrope had to borrow heavily to keep the sets alive, the stages lit, and the production crews going. In this context, Coppola micromanaged everything from the design of the sets to the choreography of the lighting. He was chasing something pure, something new, but he was also chasing it alone. And when the film premiered in 1982, it was met with confusion. Critics didn't know what to make of it.
I feel so mixed about it. I think it's really good, but I know it won't be well received.
I thought the story was banal and very boring.
I thought it was a beautiful looking movie, but I thought that it lacked emotional impact.
Audiences didn't come at the rates initially expected, which led to its box office disaster. The experimental tone, the artificial staging, it was everything the studio believed at the time, and somehow everything Hollywood and the audiences didn't. And almost overnight, the dream collapsed. Zoetrope was declared bankrupt. Coppola was personally over $20 million in debt. And the studio that once promised a new cinematic future was suddenly just another failed company with its ambition drowned by its own idealism. For Coppola, it was devastating, of course. He had to put everything on the line, his money, his reputation, his independence, and in the years that followed, he would spend much of his career working to pay off those debts, taking commercial jobs he never wanted, directing films he didn't love, just to stay afloat. The man who had had such an impact in American cinema with The Godfather was now fighting just to hold creative control and freedom. But in a way, that too was part of the dream, because One from the Heart may have failed as a product, but it succeeded as a principle. Coppola risked everything for a vision, and in doing so, he showed that what really means to make personal cinema is not just what it's convenient, but when it costs you everything. So what do we take from this story? Francis Ford Coppola risked everything for freedom. Financial freedom, creative freedom, artistic freedom. And even though he lost the battle with One from the Heart, he left behind something far more valuable than a hit. He left a blueprint. Zoetrope might have collapsed, but its spirit never really died. You can see it with filmmakers like Richard Linklater, who built a career out of time and conversation. In studios like A24 that bet on risk instead of certainty. In the explosion of indie cinema in the 1990s, when personal stories once again found their way into theaters. This same dream lives on in every filmmaker who decides not to play it safe, who sees failure not as a defeat, but as a necessary consequence of ambition. And maybe the most poetic twist of all of this is the fact that in 2024, at 85 years of age, Coppola is once again risking it all. He's self-funding Megalopolis, a massive, sprawling, decades-in-the-making passion project shot outside the system, written, directed, and financed by Coppola himself. It's as if the dream never died. It just went underground, waiting for its moment to rise again. Because the truth is, Coppola's biggest nightmare wasn't about losing money, It wasn't about refusing to settle, and in a world that so often demands compromise, the refusal might be his most lasting legacy and the biggest lesson one can take from Coppola's quote-unquote biggest nightmare.